Okay, well, let's kick off. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Robert Ray. I head up the innovation team at InnoScot Health. Thanks for joining us today on what is our final webinar, final lunchtime webinar of the year. This one is all about nurses, midwives, and allied health professionals. It's about the innovation push that we're launching to try and inspire them to innovate and come up with some good ideas. And today, what I'm going to do is a brief little introduction about InnoScot Health and what we do and how we work with groups like nurses, midwives, and AHPs. And then we have some fantastic talks as well. So we have two NHS Lothian midwives who are going to speak a little bit about an innovation they've been working on with us. And then delighted to be joined by a former nurse who has very much gone out as an entrepreneur, set up her own company as well. So lots of good things to look forward to there. So as I said, I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Fiona Schaefer. So Fiona and I will be fielding the questions at the end. And as I mentioned before, we have two talks from NHS Lothian Midwives and from CEO and founder of Ultra BiOmics. If you have any questions, do drop them into the chat as well, and we will try and take as many questions as we can at the end. So a little bit about us, just in case you haven't heard of us before, you're not sure what we do. We've been around for about 22 years now. We used to be called Scottish Health Innovations Limited, or SHIL. We work in partnership with NHS Scotland, all the different boards, the special boards, the regional boards. And our aim and our remit is to inspire, accelerate, protect, commercialise, develop inventions, innovations, and IP created by NHS Scotland staff. We're partly funded by the Chief Scientist Office. Really, any idea is a good idea from our point of view. We do a very thorough evaluation of any ideas that come to us. And I'll talk a bit more later on about the kind of ideas that we're looking for, or the ideas that we sort of typically develop. But our remit is to not only develop these ideas and get them out there as commercial products and services, but also to ensure that a financial return comes back from that to the NHS, to NHS Scotland, and to the innovator as well. So why do we think that NHS staff have good ideas? Why do we think that we need to do these sorts of pushes? Well, a couple of years ago, we went out and we did a survey across NHS Scotland, interviewing and surveying people about innovation and what it means to them. The results from that very interesting. 90% of healthcare staff believe innovation is important to improve NHS Scotland services. And of those, 61% said it's very, very important. Within that, about 2/3 of people consider themselves, 2/3 of staff consider themselves to be healthcare innovators, and over 3/4 of them have had ideas about how to improve healthcare. And the motivation for that is always very much, I've got a nice idea that makes my job a bit easier. It's going to make a difference to patients. It will help improve efficiency. It will make lives better for the patients and for the staff as well. So we know that innovation is important, and it's an important thing in people's minds across the NHS. As I said at the start of this talk, we are launching a bit of a push and a drive to try and encourage particularly nurses, midwives, and AHPs to come forward. And I think the reason why we do that is very much summed up in this quote from the RCN. Nurses are motivated to engage in innovative practices primarily because they seek to improve patient experiences, health outcomes, and nursing practice. And I think in a nutshell, that really encapsulates the reason why we believe this group of people have good ideas, and why we know they have good ideas, and why we try to encourage them to come forward with those ideas and share those ideas that they have during their working lives. So the drive we're launching is this one. We're calling it the Nursing, Midwifery and AHP Innovation Drive. If you have a good idea, if you know someone that's got a good idea, even the smallest, simplest ideas can often have merit and are often the best ones. Please do come forward. You can submit an idea at InnoScot.com. This slide references a previous call that we did on obstetrics and perinatal, but the idea is the same for all the calls and the drives that we do. If you come to us with an idea, we can provide things like sourcing funding for it, or projects need money to run, and we can help find grant funding for that. We can provide regulatory support. So if your product, or if your idea turns out to be a medical device and it needs regulatory compliance, we can help with that. We can project manage all the way through. We know that you're all busy people. You have full-time jobs which take a lot of your time, and we can take the burden off and help manage and run this for you. And we have, as I said, 22 years of extensive innovation experience in developing and progressing these ideas to market. So what kind of things were you looking for? This isn't an exhaustive list by any means, just to sort of kind of get you thinking, I suppose, and you know, kind of get some sparks going there. So I've mentioned medical devices already. So medical devices for things like clinical settings, wards, and ICUs. In the past, we've developed a number of training tools and educational tools like board games. So those are always very welcome. Equipment to improve people's experiences of day surgery is a good one. I always remember doing a pop-up stand at Forth Valley Royal Hospital in Larbert some years ago, and speaking to a nurse there from the day surgery unit, and she'd knocked up a very simple device with some gauze and some padding to put under people's noses after they've had nasal surgery to stop discharge. And she came and said, "Is this the sort of thing you're looking for?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely what we're looking for. Simple, innovative ideas that can be developed and commercialized." When we talk about nurses, we don't just mean RGNs. Of course, we very much mean RMNs and the whole field of mental health nursing, so innovations to support those. When we talk about AHPs, of course, we think of things like occupational therapy and physiotherapy, so innovations and things that help support patients there, particularly people out in the community, so physiotherapy patients in the community. And we're going to go on here in a minute about midwifery and kind of innovations that come from that. So innovative support for labour and childbirth, all very welcome. But as I said, this isn't an exhaustive list by any means. Very briefly then, one quick example of a product that we've developed and commercialized that is out there now that came from, the idea came from a nurse, is the patient transfer slide. This came to us quite a long time ago, about 10 years ago. It was from an A&E nurse in NHS Lanarkshire. She said we have real problems when people come into A&E to get an accurate weight for them, particularly if they've had a stroke, if they're immobile, and we need an accurate weight to calculate the correct drug dosage. And she had the idea of taking a patient transfer slide and putting some load cells in so that you could weigh people and transfer them and slide them from, you know, beds to trolley at the same time. Briefly then, we worked to protect the IP here, so we filed patent protection on this on behalf of NHS Lanarkshire. We worked with a company called Marsden, who are our medical device weighing company. And ultimately, the IP was licensed to them, so they now manufacture this. It went through various regulatory hoops and stages to get CE marked and to get BSI approved. It's been on sale since October 2018 and selling very well, so in the high six figures, sales figures worldwide around the year. So a simple idea, one that took a few years to develop and protect, commercialize, and roll out, and is now really improving patient outcomes and also improving the working experience for those who are using it. So next, the first of our speakers, one of my colleagues, Paula Sweeten, and one of our project managers, is going to speak to two midwives from NHS Lothian, Stacey Boyle and Marianne Hay, who've been working with us on developing an innovative type of scrubs for neonatal units.
Hello, I'm Stacey and Marianne. Thank you very much for both offering to come and do this Q&A session today about your innovation that you brought to InnoScot Health earlier this year, and that we've been working with you and we're in the process of trying to bring to market. It's a great innovation. It's a new type of scrub that's designed to be worn by birthing partners of women undergoing elective C-sections. And these scrubs will allow the birthing partners to give skin to skin for their newborn babies while mum's in recovery, and that's got lots of benefits for newborns. So you both reached out to us from working at St John's Hospital in Livingston, so thanks again for joining today, and we're just going to ask a couple of questions so that the people who are in this webinar can find out a bit more about your innovation and your journey as innovators. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about was the problem that you initially saw and that you were trying to solve when you came up for the idea for the cosy cuddle scrubs, as we're calling them, by Stacey.
So I've been doing the elective sections for the past 2 years. That's been my main role. And I noticed that there was a pattern of elective section babies becoming cold following section. Now, we know through research and study that skin to skin is the best way at keeping babies warm. So during section, it's quite a difficult thing for mums or birthing people to do skin to skin with baby, just in view of the theatre table being so narrow and mums or birthing people having their arms on arm supports, so they've not got that support for baby. So more and more dads and birth partners were keen for doing skin to skin just in the interim period during the section and then transfer to mum in recovery. Now with the scrubs that we use, we cannot safely get a baby through this V-neck shape of the neckline. And so some partners, they were happy to take their scrub tops off in theatre and put the wee one straight on their chest and then cover the wee one with towels. But again, that didn't keep the baby warm. For other partners, they also felt quite uncomfortable taking their top off in front of staff that they didn't know. So initially we used a sterile gown that the doctors use as well. But again, that wasn't great at keeping babies warm. And we also noticed that we were using an increase in plastics as well, which isn't great for the environment. So the aim was to achieve a scrub top that was easy to use, comfortable for the partners, and also to help keep these babies cosy and warm.
And from a management point of view, we had noticed that there had been an increase in admissions to special care following elective section deliveries. That is just because babies were getting quite cold. Obviously, it's quite aerated theatre, and baby, it's quite a drafty area. And initially they were just in blankets in a cot, as Stacey said, so they got quite cold, and that can cause further on effects to making them sort of not have the kind of breathing difficulties if they're not too warm. They can drop their blood glucose levels, and again they're at higher risk of being then admitted to special care. So overall it's bringing their temperature down and keeping them nice and stable and preventing them from unnecessarily having to go to special care when it's something that obviously Stacey brought forward. It can be it's a simple technique to keep them nice and warm, but it was a difficult thing to try and do in theatre with the current garments that we had.
Of course. Oh, thank you very much for that information. That's really interesting, and especially how so many issues can be resolved by this innovation that you've come up with. So obviously one of the things that we come across quite a lot at InnoScot Health is that the NHS is under a lot of pressure, and there would presumably have been quite a few challenges that you would have had to face when you were initially developing the scrubs. What did you think were the biggest challenges that you came up against?
I think for us probably the biggest challenge was funding.
Yep.
And budget.
Yep.
So we had initially went to an NHS charity, which were going to provide the money, but then it came out of Labour Ward's budget.
It did in the end. I think it was just more for timing, because we wanted to get this rolled out quite quick. By the time we went through charities and it got agreed and various different things, we just needed to buy scrubs. We needed a pot of money to buy scrubs, and with our final prototype, the material that we used was the fleeces that we already had there that was up in the sewing room. So that wasn't a cost issue from that point of view, but it was getting the scrubs in and obviously getting them amended. So the challenges absolutely were budget initially, and then staff's perception.
Yeah. So I think quite a lot of staff don't like change, and there was quite a lot of negativity around about the look of the scrubs. But they all eventually agreed that the scrubs were doing what they needed to do and keep mums and babies together, keep babies warm. But yeah, there was definitely some negativity about how they looked.
Yeah, aesthetically. But again, that was tweaked through our various different prototypes, because we had to make it obviously safe for babies at that point. When it was too high, it just wasn't it's more aesthetically looking when the scoop was a bit higher. But yeah.
And I think as well, it's trying to find the right material. Because obviously our very first prototype was a cellular blanket, and it just didn't help maintain baby's temperature at all. So then we went down the route of upcycling the fleeces.
Yeah.
So you've been on quite a journey then, I think, with lots of different prototypes, and in a way, I guess the issue of negativity being there it can be quite a useful one, because it's helped you to shape the prototypes and the scrubs as you've gone forward. And one of the things that was most useful about this project when you came to InnoScot Health was that obviously you'd done quite a bit of research yourselves prior to coming to us. One of the things that you'd done was some audit work in St John's Hospital. Can you tell us a bit about those audits? What was it that you were looking at when you carried out those audits?
So we were looking at babies' temperatures, so thermoregulation. So we wanted to assess baby's temperature when they were initially born, prior to going into skin to skin, once they had been in skin to skin and once they were in recovery to see what their temperature was like. Every baby that's been in skin to skin, their temperature had increased. We also observed babies' behaviour and their feeding patterns. So we noticed that babies that had been in skin to skin with the birthing partner, they were so much more settled, they were calmer, and they were a lot quicker to feed as well.
That's really interesting. And from a kind of management type perspective, do you think that there was support from the hospital when you wanted to carry out these audits and try and find out the information that you thought you needed to know?
Yep, absolutely. I think what helped is that I've got QI, quality improvement involvement within the work setting anyway, so that did absolutely help, and I knew sort of who to contact from a QI point of view to assist with sort of the audits, but it was trying to keep it sort of simplified as well, not getting too complex. So the main aim initially was temperature, so it's trying to keep them warm. So the audit from that point of view was doing a comparison from the cellular blanket initially for the first prototype, and then from the one that we upscaled to the upcycled one, so it was doing a comparison. So there wasn't as much hurdles to get through, it was just keeping it consistent and doing that audit. Then the next audit we then went on to was the feeding one. How effective did they feed? Did they feed because obviously they were nice and warm, so did they feed prior to transfer going up to the maternity ward? So again, it was with that. And then down sort of the journey down the road was then the audits of admissions to special care. Had it in fact done that? Had it reduced the admissions to special care to keep babies nice and warm?
And that's been something that's been very, very useful to have, and obviously depending on the innovation you've got, it can be trickier to do this kind of audit work. But in this case, it's been very useful as we've tried to take the product forward, and now we're in negotiations with a manufacturer that will hopefully help to get this innovation on the market soon. You'd mentioned earlier on about how you'd had feedback sort of in a clinical setting and how useful that was for the development of the scrubs. Has patient feedback been important to you as well when you've been developing your innovation?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been so important for our project. I've personally designed these scrubs to enhance the family experience and most importantly to keep mums and babies together. The birth partners and also the mums have given so many positive feedbacks, and it's quite encouraging to hear their positive experience and the change that it's also made to them. And it's kind of made it more personal for us, that the aim of our project's been achieved. So it's lovely to hear.
Yeah, and we've had staff feedback as well, because obviously you're lessening the work for staff because they're not having to do much other interventions with trying to get babies warm again. So that sort of lightened their workload. So from a staff point of view, as much as initially there was a bit of negativity, thinking we'll change and that doesn't look like a standard scrub, actually the purpose of it has done what it's meant to do, and it's alleviated a lot of their workload as well.
Great. So you came to InnoScot Health earlier on in the spring of this year. Obviously you'd done a bit of development, you had a functional prototype that you were using in-house at St John's, and we've been doing a bit of work with you, first of all to try and protect the intellectual property that's associated with this innovation. So that's been the design rights for the scrubs, which are now registered. And that's an important part in how we can manage to actually commercialise these products. How did you first find out about InnoScot Health, and what was it that made you reach out to us?
Yeah, so we were at a point where we needed to go further. We'd obviously done our prototypes, we had rolled it out November of last year, had positive feedback. We're doing all our audits, had the proof at our audits, and then we thought, right, where do we go from here? So I'd reached out to various other midwifery managers and service managers as well to say, right, what's our next step? We need more support with this. We were met with a few blanks initially, and then thankfully one of our associate service managers has said, have you heard of InnoScot Health? And I said, no, I haven't. And I was like, fantastic, let me get you in touch with them. And then that is when it's just completely been a game changer. It's been fantastic from the valuable support that you have provided in order to go that next stage up and actually share our innovation and move forward with it. So it's been an immense support from yourselves.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. It's been a lovely project to work on so far as well. And do you think there's been anything in particular that we've helped you with that's been the most useful for you?
Yeah, so me and Stacey agree with this as well. So we've just put that obviously have helped us develop the innovation greatly, because we were obviously at a dead end. We're thinking, don't know where to go from there. So we wouldn't have got any further without yourselves. You have obviously helped with the design registration, all the legal aspects. I mean, we're midwives, so that is just not our forte, and we didn't know who to contact or who to deal with. But you have obviously done all the communication, all the support. It's been invaluable. So the legal aspects, sourcing a manufacturer, looking at all different companies that were available, and the consistency, the communication through yourselves to us has been fantastic, keeping us in the loop moving forward. Yeah, and I honestly couldn't have done it without your professional advice, your knowledge, and all your support. This wouldn't have been where it is now if it wasn't for you. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. And that's one of the things that we hope to just get across during this webinar, is to let anyone who is attending who is a nurse, midwife or allied healthcare profession, anyone who's on this call who has an idea for an innovation, we are here for you and we can support in lots of different ways. So please do reach out to us if you're on this webinar and you have any ideas. Just to wrap up then, I just have one last question, which is to see if either of you have any advice that you would give to other nurses, midwives, allied health professions who think they might have an idea for an innovation.
Yeah, I think for myself, from a personal point of view, if anyone's got an idea that's going to benefit the patients, their families, they should definitely follow it through. As a healthcare professional, we strive to do and give the best care possible, and if any idea is going to improve the quality of care for their patients, then they should do it.
Yeah, and I think us as, on the floor working, you come across things, you think, that'd be great if we could do this, but then you have that doubt in the back of your mind and think, oh no, that's a stupid idea. It's absolutely not. Reach out and just see, and if it comes to it, you think, oh no, actually maybe we should look at this or look at that, it's worth an ask and worth it, because every idea is fantastic. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so thanks again from everyone at InnoScot Health, and I'll pass over for the rest of the webinar now.
Great, so that's a really inspiring story there from two NHS Lothian midwives, and huge thanks as well to NHS Lothian as well as to the two midwives there who've been enormously supportive of the project. NHS Lothian paid for the registered design rights, and they hold those rights now, but they've been very supportive in trying to get this out into the wider world and working with us. And as Paula said there, if you want to submit an idea, there are ways to do it. You can scan the code there, but the details are on our website too. There's a very easy web submission form, or you can book a consultation with us, and I'll talk a bit more about that later as well. And just a final slide there while we wrap up this part of the webinar. So this is Stacey holding one of the scrubs. It's not very easy to see how it works, but essentially you put the scrub on, that panel at the front, the dark panel folds down, and the baby goes next to your skin, and you fold the panel up to sort of hold it in place and give the skin-to-skin contact there. So really excellent, simple idea, simple to develop, albeit with some design and development steps there, and a really positive one there. So delighted now to hand over to our next speaker, so Lisa Rickers. Is a former nurse who has very much undertaken an entrepreneurial journey, and she's going to tell you about some of the different hats that she wears and some of the different things that she does. So I will stop sharing and let Lisa share her slides.
Thank you. Hopefully that's sharing now.
Yep, I can see that. Yeah.
Great, great. Well, that was fantastic to hear just how you've been involved in that journey. And I guess you could use what I'm going to talk about a little bit more in terms of the before and after that InnoScot was available. So yeah, so I'm here to really talk to you about the iCrowd. And the iCrowd is a community interest company, and our mission is to unleash the potential of every nurse to be part of the innovation process. And as we know, nursing and innovation's got a long history in the UK, which started with Florence Nightingale. But I think in present times, unfortunately, the UK is sort of dropping behind supporting nurses to innovate compared to other countries. So just move the slide on. So let me introduce you to our team. So our team consists of Jackie. So Jackie's a nurse and a nurse educator. She's been a lead specialist at Innovate UK. She's a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts and a CEO of Jackie's Revolution, which is redefining and challenging the old ways of how we deliver care to people who grow old. She's courageous, she's a disruptor, and she challenges my thinking all the time. We have Phil, and he's a product specialist and a nurse ally. So he's worked and supported many startups and has a background in engineering. So he's a voice outside of our echo chamber and brings new perspective. And I guess me, I'm the person with boundless ideas and vision for change. So my speciality is in metabolic disease and obesity. I'm also a CEO of BiOmics and a director of another company called Beyond 49, which is a coaching company. And as a coach, I love to help people reach their potential. So we've talked a lot about innovation, and I guess for me, you know, in 2020, we witnessed the change and rapid transformation that accompanied the pandemic. I think until that point, my experiences in the healthcare systems and mindsets that we were built for kind of gradual, continuous improvement. But at this point, we really saw that we needed to adapt quickly to foster disruptive innovation at scale. It was a time of change and an opportunity for innovation. And we kind of went from business as usual to business unusual overnight. But I feel that a few years later on, we've seemed to run aground a little. We've lost that momentum and we've regressed our tolerance to failure and returned to sort of those target-driven outputs. We've reverted back to goals centered around efficiency, productivity, reducing costs. And I think we've forgotten that there's need to be a focus on why and the how and not just the what. So I also feel that we haven't really taken care or shown compassion to healthcare employees. And we're now seeing this widening health divide. And we're faced in the current situation in the UK healthcare system, unprecedented pressure from an ageing population, workforce shortages, and a lack of investments. And nurses make up the largest segment. And when I talk about nurses as well, we're talking about midwives and AHP, because I think the similar experiences exist. And I feel that sort of we are uniquely positioned to drive innovation and address these challenges. However, you know, we do have systematic barriers, cultural exclusion, and a lack of support that has stifled potential, just leading to really lots of missed opportunities for improving healthcare delivery and outcomes. So despite being, you know, our proximity to patients and a deep understanding of the healthcare challenges, nurses are frequently sidelined in the innovation process. And so as part of the iCrowd, what we did is we undertook a comprehensive survey in 2022 of over 400 UK nurses and midwives. And I have to say, from the results, we didn't get many nurses or midwives completing the survey from Scotland. And so your experiences might be slightly different. So we asked nurses and midwives in their organisations, did they have a nurse or a midwife that was leading innovation? And what we found was that 70% of organisations did not have an identifiable nurse or midwife leading innovation. So the question remains is, who is leading nurse innovation? We also asked nurses, how are your ideas supported? And I looked at this through the lens of self-determination theory, which identifies three basic human psychological needs as competence, autonomy, and relatedness, in order that we can function optimally. And what we saw was there was little evidence that that exists. Few described any autonomy or support. The majority suggested that they needed senior approval to innovate. And therefore they didn't have the autonomy or competence, and there was little evidence of feeling connected to our leaders or organisations. So what do nurses need to innovate? So several themes emerged when we asked what nurses needed, and we know that funding and time are probably some of the biggest barriers to innovation. But as Peter Drucker states, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And we need to support innovation cultures, not only for our organisations to thrive, but for us as individuals to thrive. We also know that women do not have equal access to funding. And what we also see is that female-dominated professions like nursing, they get even less of the pie. So we are often seen as being less rigorous and less valuable than other healthcare professionals. And this is supported from research from the World Health Organization as well, which highlighted that nursing as a predominantly female profession often suffers from gender-based barriers that limit opportunities for innovation and leadership. And women across all fields face challenges such as underrepresentation in leadership roles, less access to funding, and often the burden of unpaid labour falls with women in their caregiving responsibilities. And this is especially true in nursing, where the demands of the job often extend beyond the workplace, making it difficult for nurses to engage in innovation and entrepreneurial activities. Unsurprisingly, we saw that few nurses had received the opportunity to learn about innovation, and even fewer had been paid to undertake any training. This makes innovation less equal and accessible due to increased nursing demands, pay cuts, and cost of living. And it feels to me like innovation is an elite sport where only a few can participate. So in summary of the research, the overarching themes emerging can help us to provide a roadmap for change. And this centres around organisational change, opportunities for innovation to be part of the nursing career and progression, and opportunities for collaboration and the importance of innovation communities. So for us, what's next for the iCrowd after we've undertaken the survey? Well, we're looking to create a series of podcasts where we talk about how to build a culture of innovation within nursing, how we can draw valuable lessons from other industries that have successfully fostered inclusive and collaborative environments. And we're theming this around three themes, which is unblock, unlock, and unleash. So for Unblock, we're looking at redefining nursing as a profession for innovation. So how we can shift the narrative around nursing to emphasise its potential as a profession of innovators and problem solvers. And also how we can incorporate opportunities for recasting by introducing different voices in the room, encouraging different perspectives and viewpoint. And this can really help us to discover new ways of doing things and to do things differently. And for Unlock, it's how can we support women in innovation? Given these gender dynamics that we talked about within nursing, it's really crucial to address these specific barriers that women face. And we also need to look at how we can unlock those pathways and clinical progression to innovation. And looking to move on to Unleash, so looking to see how we might be able to leverage technology for collaboration, and how we can integrate innovation into an everyday practice so that it's not seen as an additional task, but an integral part of nursing practice. And looking in ways in which we can partner outside the box. So how can we orchestrate external innovation ecosystems that can foster collaborations across sectors and access skills and expertise that exists outside of our organisations. So I know I've just given you a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but we hope that this is a starting point that can foster discussions and build a movement for change. But we'd love for you all to be part of this, and definitely would be valuing your support as well. I'm happy if anyone has any questions or in terms of the format, that what's next.
Great. Lisa, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for giving us some insight there into the iCrowd and your journey to set it up. The research that you did is absolutely fascinating. I think we need to have a separate discussion offline about that at some point, and sort of compare notes with our own survey that we did. So we have some time for some Q&A now, some questions. We have one from the floor at the moment, which I might ask my colleague Fiona to field because it does relate slightly to the scrubs. The question is, what acknowledgement does the original innovator get once a product has gone to market?
Rookie error, sorry. With the scrubs, for example, you'll maybe didn't notice, we obviously didn't show anything, was talking about Cozy Cuddle Scrubs by Stacey, is then recognising the original innovator was Stacey. So by kind of creating a name, involving that, so they were very keen to make sure that she was recognised, and that's absolutely something that we support with going forward, because although yes, they developed it, it was all part within NHS Lothian, it wouldn't go further forward without those innovators. And actually, with looking at, say, for example, the patient transfer scales, Gillian Taylor was very much part of communications, how we promote these. I think she even worked with Marsden for a period as well. So we continue to work very closely with innovators, because they're part, they, as we've kind of said already today, that they are actually very much part of the recognizing the problem. It's how they share and learn from their, they share that with their peers, how they overcome those fears, or why would I, so we very much involve innovators. I guess how you do that might be in terms of the material and the promotional material, but we try and very much include innovators and in their recognition. I think, is that kind of answering the question? And there's also, I guess, if you kind of look at the intellectual property side of it, in terms of if they get a share in royalties, if you're thinking along that, what's the recognition? It's that there's also they also share in the reward back to the health board, where there's a financial benefit, which is obviously one of the things we're focusing on, that sort of commercial outcome.
Okay. Thank you for that, Fiona. So a question now that's coming from the floor from this one's for Lisa, I think. So someone's come to, hello, really interesting around the culture of innovation and impact of gender. Thoughtful of what can be done at a local level to challenge this. How do you build enough energy in this space to influence leadership level, Lisa? That's quite a big question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I experienced that within nursing, but also, outside within the sort of innovation ecosystem as well. It's challenging for women, women getting funding from VCs. We could go on a lot about that, but it's very difficult out there. It's challenging, and even though we're talking about this and we're recognizing it, it's doing little to change the statistics overall. So I think, we do really need to think about, making sure that what we do, we review and see what the outcomes of that is. I believe that this has to come from a bottom-up approach as well, but equally we need that top-level support in order for our voices to be heard. So, I mean, we spoke to so many nurses that tell us that, nobody's listened. And I think Nestra Nursing Times in 2019 did some research as well, which said that our voices were stifled because we weren't being listened to in terms of any innovative ideas, which seems such a shame. But I think, what you're developing here, it sounds amazing. I wished I'd had access to those sorts of things when I was starting out. But yeah, because for all of those things, sort of, going through intellectual property and all of those commercialization, it's outside potentially of our comfort zone. So, there's a huge amount to learn, and there's often another language to learn as well when you go into the sort of entrepreneur innovation ecosystem that is challenging. But I think that it's something that we all have to do something about, and equally some of that is raising our voices, but it's having that support and then looking to see what outcomes. And we thought about ways in which we can do a lot of this, and I think it needs to also be supported from outside of the healthcare system as well, because it's not just impacting healthcare, it's impacting other industries.
Great, thank you for that. I guess it's kind of a follow-on question then as well, Lisa, based on what you've just said there. I mean, do you have any specific advice for nurses who might be considering a move into something more entrepreneurial? And I guess I'm thinking here about your experience with the clinical entrepreneur program and how much that helped you. Did that give you the confidence to do what you've done?
Yeah, so I've done a few accelerated programs now. So NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme was the first. And I think that really gave a really great overview and incredible amounts of learning over a year-long programme. So that was incredible, being around people as well that sort of were all thinking and wanting to do something different, and it really opens up those collaborative channels as well, where lots of people on the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme start working together as well. But I think what happens is like the NHS Clinical Entrepreneur Programme isn't often supported within your organisation. So you do it in your own time. You do it in spite of an organisation, not because they're supporting you to do it. So it's an extra pressure. So you've already got a busy workload trying to juggle that, and then you've got this on top. And so, there's a lot of stress. And I think when you're putting people outside of their comfort zone as well, kind of having that sort of support and thinking about people's mental well-being. And I've been on some other accelerator programs where it's been about tearing people down and then offering coaching to support them. It's just don't tear people down in the first place. It's about building and support, and it sounds as though that's what you're looking at doing as well in terms of with InnoScot. Really looking to see how you can support people to move forward with their innovations.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for. So I've got time for a couple more questions before we wrap up. Another one for Lisa. You're getting all the questions today from the floor. So Lisa, NHS is predominantly female dominated. What should senior female leaders do to support innovation among other colleagues? Is there an opportunity here, awareness and that kind of thing?
I think where we saw a lot of the barriers happening is immediate line managers blocking ideas moving forward. So they often didn't get to a place where somebody could help support or drive it forward. I would say that for leaders in organisation, I'll ask the question, who is leading innovation? How are you supporting nurses to innovate? Is there a programme? Do nurses get time to do that? Is there fellowship programmes? Are they attended by equally distributed within the workforce? We often don't see that. And I think, seeing role models of people out there doing it is really powerful. Because if you don't see anybody that looks like you, when I first started this journey, I'd be in a room with lots of other innovators or entrepreneurs, and I'd be the only nurse in the room. So, I didn't have a role model there that I could see or I could look to or talk to other people. So it was a very lonely journey. So I think having that ecosystem and support is important. But this has to be more than just something in your strategy document. I've seen it written, innovation, we support it, but actually, how are you measuring what that support looks like, and how are you reporting those outcomes? Because it needs to be more than just words on a piece of paper.
Great, thank you very much for that. Got time for one last quick question. I think this one relates to the scrubs. Really a general question. How do we see the future of the scrubs? How do we see the product developing and progressing? I don't know, Fiona, if you have any thoughts on that one.
Well, I don't know whether people kind of heard. So Paula is leading project manager development. We've had very positive initial conversations with a manufacturer who's looking to sort of finalize a specification and with the wind flying in the right direction by the new year to hopefully be able to get be not taking too long to actually get to manufacturing that first batch of products, because there's a lot of interest from colleagues within other parts of NHS Lothian. So that's St John's, and is a relatively small hospital compared to the Royal Infirmary or Simpsons, which elsewhere in NHS Lothian. So I think there's kind of starting off locally with a to actually build on that and be able to spread the word. So more babies will obviously benefit, and parents, and so I think that's the current lie of the land. I think they're very enthusiastic innovators and want to kind of capture that momentum and share that and spread that as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, well that's us done 12:45, so we will wrap up now. Huge thanks to our speakers today. Thank you to Stacey, Boyle, Marianne Hay, and huge thanks to Lisa Rickers for giving us such fascinating insight into her journey and to the work of the iCrowd and the research there. Just to say, we have a regular schedule of webinars. We'll be back in the new year with those. If you want to book a consultation with us and talk to one of our team, me or Fiona or Paula or any of us, you can go onto our website and book a consultation through Calendly there. But thanks again for joining today. I hope you found that useful. If you have any further questions you want to ask us, please do get in touch. If you've got any questions for Stacey or Marianne in particular, do let us know and we can forward them to those and they can answer those. But thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.